Hey everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get things started here. Appreciate you all joining our June community call for VDAO. Really excited to share some things that we've been working on. Had some really cool events take place over the last month. Some really cool ones coming up. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the agenda for today. We're gonna go over the VDAO goals and objectives. um Kind of, why are we here, remind ourselves what we're doing, what we're working towards. Then we'll dive into the virtual events, some of the events that we've already had over the last month, and then a look ahead at the events, the virtual events that are coming up for this month. And then we're excited to really start talking about some of the in-person events. I know we've been doing all virtual events, and now we are going to be kicking off these more in-person events. And then we'll talk about how people can get involved and then open things up to a Q&A. So Chris, if you want to go ahead and take us off with the goals and objectives.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Ben. So let's dive in. Just a quick recap on what VDAO is all about. The purpose of VDAO, our mission, is to incubate regenerative network state communities and solutions. That's what we're all about. So we're coming together, trying to build community and trying to kind of collectively work towards this regenerative network state. And there's a few different ways we're kind of going about that. And if we can go on to the next slide, we'll start thinking a bit about that in detail. So one of our main goals since the launch of VDAO back in February has been to raise awareness around regenerative living. And really, this is what we mean by regenerative living is this it's building at the intersection of atoms and bits, building not just, so often when people think about regenerative living, they think about the nature component, the permaculture, the regenerative agriculture, and so on. That's important. That's the atoms bit. We're also interested in the intersection of the atoms and bits. And we want to kind of bring together these different communities. So communities of people that are building in the physical world, communities that are building in the digital world. They can come together and find a home in VDAO. And we believe that it's through collaboration that we're going to fulfill our mission of kind of building regenerative network states. So raising awareness in the space, offering educational opportunities in a peer-to-peer way. We'll think about that a bit later on in this call as well, like how we've been going about that, and we'll kind of share what we've got planned for the month ahead. But yeah, this is really a core goal. If we can move on to the next slides. Alongside this, we're focused on creating space for community and fostering connections between community members. This has been a huge part of what we've been focused on for the last couple of months. We've been kind of spinning up weekly events to bring people together, to start thinking about regenerative living, and we're moving more into the real world event space. And again, we'll come later on to think about some concrete examples of this in the coming months. But without community, and without the connections, strong connections between the community, we're not going to achieve our mission. So we're creating space for that community to form right now, and kind of supporting the community in every way we can to build and develop strong connections. And then thinking about like what comes after this, like how do we, once we've kind of raised awareness, once we've really sort of created space for community, once the community started to build, we're going to move towards kind of ideation, product development, and starting to put some of this into practice. So that means thinking about token-based solutions, products, and incentives at the intersection of the physical and the digital. And this is really phase two. Once the community is formed and it's established, and we've built this group of like-minded people, we're really going to start focusing on developing products and solutions in this space.
Thank you, Chris, for that look back at what we're here for, what we're working towards. Kind of going into the virtual events component. So just a reminder of our current event cadence is we typically week one will, like we're having today, and that kicks off the rest of the series of virtual events. Following community call will be a Twitter Spaces, and then a lunch and learn, and then a community voices. Just a reminder of what each of these is. Community calls is this kind of update format, and the chance to connect with the various people here at VDAO. The Twitter Spaces is, we tend to be more outward looking, connected with individuals about a specific topic, and really diving in and leaning into that topic. One of our more recent topics was onboarding people into the Web3 space and how to make it more accessible, reduce friction points. And then a lunch and learn is a more learning focused event, learning session. And the last one that we had was with Christoph Hayes. And then Community Voices is an opportunity for community members and contributors to pick out a topic that they're passionate about or have some knowledge in, and kind of do a short presentation and open that up into a community discussion where we kind of dive deeper together as a community into that subject. So look at last month, what we did. Again, talking about the Twitter Spaces that we had the onboarding the next billion, making Web3 accessible with Griff Green. A lot of common themes came up in this about how to improve the UI UX design to make it more simple and more comfortable for maybe non-Web3 users, especially something that VDAO looks at because of the trying to bring together the bits and atoms, the people that are already, maybe Web3 crypto native, and then bringing those that are, hands in the soil, maybe a little bit less experienced on the tech side. Making that onboarding process simple and clear is very helpful. Something that came up in that discussion. Lunch and Learn, robotics and AI tech for regeneration with Christoph Hayes. Recommend go check that out on our YouTube. It was a great discussion. Christoph kind of took us through his journey of talking with and connecting with, more traditional farmers out in the UK, introducing them to like new tech ideas and how these different tech components could improve productivity, reduce labor, things like that. Solve for specific problems was an interesting one that came up. June 4th, we had our community voices, regenerative land design with Rob Avis and Menno, who is a DAO contributor and community member. Menno was working on a project of his in France, and it was kind of the early stages of his design. Rob kind of gave his reflections on that and highlighted some different opportunities when it comes to water management. You could find on our YouTube channel. You'd have to search it up, or you could find it in our Discord or on our community portal. All those places are you can find a link. It's at Join VDAO is the channel name. So look at what's coming up. So on June 18th, we have our Twitter Spaces. That is next week. It'll be on what is a regenerative network state. We're going to be joined by some of the leaders in the network state space. People like Brooke Bowman from VibeCamp, Yeller Moon from Metacartel Metacamp, and Zach from Coordinate. Should be a very good discussion. June 25th is a lunch and learn solar tech and energy storage. This has been a common theme that's been coming up in the community around renewable energy, and microgrids, things like that. So we're gonna have John Ruth, who's from EcoSpark or Spark Eco, sorry, and Nathalie Capati is a CEO for Jasmine Energy and has been working in the battery energy storage even prior to that for many years. July 2nd is again a common theme here going solar. We're going to be joined by John Packle, Al, who's also present in this call, and Steph McCurdy are going to be doing short presentations on their experience in the industry, their experience of going solar, what it looks like, what to expect, that sort of stuff. And then an update about July 9th, we will not be having a community call. We'll go into details as to why about that as we kind of start talking about the in real life events that are coming up. But this is what we have on the agenda for the next month. And that brings us into the IRL events. And Chris, I think you could talk to this a bit.
Sure. John was asking if the event on June 18th, is that at 2 p.m. Eastern time? I think it's a bit earlier than that, right? You're on mute.
I want to double check actually.
We can drop the link in the chat.
Yeah, I'll drop the link.
Cool. So let's dive in to think a bit about the in real life events that we've got planned within VDAO. We really want to move, I think we touched on this in the last community call, that we really want to move into this real life, supporting real life connections between community members, in addition to the virtual events that we're hosting every week. And we're approaching this by supporting all DAO contributors to host a local meetup in their area. So there's a proposal process that is about to be rolled out within the DAO. The Governance Guild has been involved in thinking about how to kind of proceed with inviting proposals from DAO contributors, how to approve proposals, and we've got a process that's about to be rolled out inside Discord. And basically every DAO contributor, if they want to hold a social event in their area, a social meetup with no expectations other than they kind of bring a community together in their local area, get some pizzas in, some drinks, hang out, share some photographs within the VDAO Discord to describe the event. VDAO itself will reimburse the hosts up to $500 per event, and we want to kind of facilitate VDAO contributors to really start getting out into the local community, meeting up with people that are interested in regenerative living, and kind of get some momentum going here. The full process is going to be dropped in Discord very soon, but essentially there'll be a very light proposal form that you have to fill in, you submit, and then these proposals will be reviewed by guild coordinators to see that they kind of see what area they're in, and once approved, you can get reimbursement up to $500 for your event. So we encourage everyone, if you're interested, you want to host an event in your area, reach out to Ben on Discord or drop a message on Discord to me or any of the guild coordinators, and yeah, we'll support you to make that happen. We've already got 2 events coming up in the next in the next 3 weeks. The first one's going to be in the Bay Area. I don't know, I think I saw Al on the call. Is Al here? Yeah, Al, you're in the Bay Area, right? There's a big group forming in the Bay Area, and the first event, the first meetup, is going to be happening over there on June 21st. More details about that will be coming out soon. And we'll have a Luma link for people to sign up. If you're in the Bay Area, you can come hang out for a couple of hours, we'll have some food and drinks, and it'll just essentially just a hangout space. Yeah, I'll sing Gardner spilled the beans. Yeah, so we're excited for this, and this is what the DAO is all about. It's not just about gathering online. It's about moving into the real world and having opportunities to get together and start building community in the real world under this theme of regenerative living. That's the first event. Second event is going to be on the East Coast. So there's a bit of an East Coast, West Coast thing. Like the two biggest groups in the DAO, or well, I would say actually there's 3 groups because there's some people in Vancouver as well, and I think an event will be happening there pretty soon. But we've got a West Coast group in the Bay Area, we've got an East Coast group around New York City, and we're going to have an event on June 24th happening in New York City. It'll be more details will be shared about this soon, but it's going to be a really cool event, a rooftop event in New York for a couple of hours. Come hang out, some food, some drink, very social event. And yeah, we're really excited about this. And like I said earlier, if you want to host a gathering, a meetup in your area, there's now a process in the DAO for you to do that. And we'd encourage everyone, every contributor to kind of come forward if they're interested in hosting an event in their local area. So alongside the shorter meetups, John's asking Monday, June 24th. Just to go back to the previous event, sorry, I'm just responding to John's message in the chat, Ben. I know we talked about doing a weekend event, but I was hearing that apparently, and you might know more about this than me, John, but like apparently people's schedules in New York are like, people have plans at the weekend. So we're going for an evening event on a Monday to bring people in from the city. Sounds good. So let's move on to think about the event we've got coming up at EthCC. I think I also saw Angelo in the chat, which is great. And maybe Angelo, let me just describe this event, and then Angelo, if maybe we could come to you to get a bit of a kind of overview about what Buildcities is and their role in this. But basically this event that we've got planned is in partnership with Buildcities, is a full day-long event alongside the EthCC conference that's happening in Brussels. I'm really excited about it. It's called Building Network States Atoms Edition, really focusing a lot on the physical, like building in the physical, and kind of what are the building blocks towards establishing regenerative network states. We've got a really exciting list of speakers, and yeah, I would encourage everyone, if you're going to be at EthCC, come hang out. It's going to be great. I'm wondering, Angela, if you want to say a bit about Build and what you guys are kind of hoping for with the event, and also previous events that you've hosted. You're up for it? Sorry, Angelo. Ben,
You should be able to. Yep, he should be able to unmute now.
There we go. Hey everyone. Hey, thanks for teeing this up, and thanks for organizing this. This is my first community call, and just kind of going down the rabbit hole with a lot of this, with some of the concepts of regenerative land, solar, everything. We have a lot of those people working on interesting projects in our ecosystem as well. And I'm one of the founders of Buildcities, buildcities.network. really what we kind of are is a coordination layer between these different organizations and the kind of, with a kind of goal to align people, purpose, and place. Yeah, we have currently over 1,200 different networks across 58 cities, and even just starting to develop out a real estate footprint of third spaces that our co-founder is kind of leading the charge on. And so this Building Network States series is, there's so many open-ended questions with what network states are, and a lot of kind of high-level pitches, but not a lot of maybe not as much kind of in the weeds, kind of talking about the tactical, talking about, hey, how do we set up a community of off-gridders, right? How do we actually get what does a sovereign stack look like at the bottom of Maslow's pyramid? All those types of things that we find a lot more interested in. And so this is the fourth installment we've done of this event series. So we've done one in Denver, we've done one in Dubai, we just finished one in Austin, and we're really, I think a lot of the network state stuff is really just kind of bringing an umbrella of technologists and multiple disciplines, and that's where we linked up with Chris and the rest of the VDAO crew, and just found a lot of alignment on that same values. So yeah, we're hosting an all-day event in Brussels. It's going to be amazing with yeah, I'm just really looking forward to not only having this event and meeting some folks there, but really just kind of seeing deeper ways we can kind of work with VDAO and support the mission that you guys are taking on. It's really cool to see.
Cheers, man. We're super excited to be working with you guys too. And I think this event has a lot of potential. There's already a lot of excitement building around it. And yeah, I think it's going to be great. Cool, we can move to the next slides. Did you want to come in and answer that question?
I'll just reply to Al here directly. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, so if you want to get involved, so we kind of talked a bit about the mission and the goals and the vision for the DAO, and we've talked about how we're building that out in a concrete way through our events, real-world events, online events. There's still lots of opportunities to get involved in the DAO. It's still very, very early. It's still a small community. There's tons of opportunities, and we're just kind of, I want to go through this as fast as possible because I want to open up the floor for discussions. Just very briefly, we've got a process to apply to become a contributor to the DAO. This is designed to find people that are highly aligned with the DAO's mission. We've had 70 applications in to become DAO contributors. 37 of those people have followed up and booked a call. So we've got around 37 contributors at the moment. The main contribution areas are around the areas of governance. That's probably the most active guild because we're actively developing a governance process for the DAO as we build it out and as we move towards this next phase, which is really going to be focused heavily on ideation and kind of essentially product development in a way, developing products and solutions in the regenerative network state space. So there's a lot of work in the governance guild. If you want to get involved in that guild, reach out. There's opportunities there for sure. Other areas of contribution, we've got the local hubs are starting to form. We've got one hub in the Bay Area. There's some talk within that hub of possibly looking at a way to get to purchase some land to do some interesting stuff over in the Bay Area. Still very early, but there's quite a lot of exciting potential over there. Likewise, on the East Coast, there's a group forming there, and I can see a lot of potential for a strong hub forming on the East Coast, and there's lots of opportunities to build that out too. If you want to become a contributor, you can follow the application process through Discord. Fill in the application. It's a very light process. It involves putting in an application, then booking a call with me, and finding a place in the DAO where you feel aligned and you feel like you'd really want to get stuck in and help build the DAO out. Cool. Let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah, it seems slides are stuck.
Okay, no worries. I can just talk briefly about the DAO avatars then, because I think that's coming up next, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe we just move to discussion, because I think it's probably some questions and thoughts from the people on the call. I'd love to get into that, but just briefly before we go there, we've got this plan to develop what we'd call a DAO census, kind of like a social graph for the DAO, where every user, every new contributor for the DAO into the DAO can have their own profile, and within that, we want to give each contributor the opportunity to have an avatar, choose an avatar, and we've got a pod within the DAO building out DAO avatars in the with the theme of ecosystem builder animals. Here we go, the deck's back. And yeah, there's opportunities to get involved there if you want to help out. It's quite a fun project. And yeah, these avatars will become kind of key profile pics for new contributors that join the DAO over time. Alongside this, we've also got our Community Voices event happening every month, and there are several contributors who've already come forward to host an event. I know that John's got one coming up soon on solar, and Nahid previously did one on kind of food security and local food systems. So those are opportunities there. We're also looking for suggestions. If there's people in the space that you really want to hear from, we can use our networks to bring them into Twitter Spaces. If we can, we'd love to do that. And you know, when we've been booking our guests for Twitter Spaces, people have been really responsive. So if there's anyone you think I'd love to hear from them, let us know and we'll try and get them in. And also, yeah, we've got our question of the week running in the DAO, which people are engaging with regularly. So there's another way you can get involved if you want to participate in the community discussion. Cool. As I said earlier, if you want to get involved, if you want to get more involved, you can schedule a call, visit the DAO application section in Discord, and yeah, I'd love to talk with you in detail about how we can work together to continue building out this DAO. I think that's it on the kind of more formal part, if I can call it that, of the DAO, the community call, the presentation. I'm keen to open up the floor. If anyone has any thoughts or questions, I know we've got a few people that are new to the DAO. I know, Ben, you'd introduced yourself recently in there. If there's any questions at all, anything that's unclear, or any area you want us to double click on, I'd love to hear from you. Likewise, if anyone else has got any questions or thoughts, areas they want to discuss, please drop it in the chat or come forward, and yeah, let's explore together. Hey, Ben. I think everyone can unmute themselves if they want to now, right, Ben?
Yeah, they should be able to unmute themselves now.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like I can unmute. Very interesting. So yeah, I'm new here, and I'm also fairly new to just a DAO in general. Like I've kind of been interested in things that have been happening in the crypto and decentralized space for a few years, and I've kind of dabbled in some stuff. But I'm not like a software engineer, and I haven't never worked in this space, so it's all fairly new to me. I will say that from somebody who is like, I'm pretty curious and I like to learn, and sometimes wrapping my head around this stuff, like stuff with crypto or stuff with DAOs, is kind of difficult. And I'm somebody who likes to ingest new information. So I think just as just some thoughts for like, I think it'll be really important for bringing new people in to crafting messages and visuals that make it easy for people to understand would be pretty huge. But I guess my question for like Ben or Chris would be something, help me see what a project might look like, because it sounds very interesting, and the values are things that I share. It just seems also pretty broad, so I'd love to kind of hear maybe a specific example of a direction or some kind of project that could potentially take shape. Of course, it's hypothetical, but just something to kind of sink my teeth into.
Sure. Yeah, I think just to touch briefly on the point you make about onboarding and access into the Web3 space, I think that's like an industry-wide kind of challenge, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to have that Twitter space recently, was to start thinking about that. How do we reduce barriers to kind of new people coming into the space? Messaging is crucial, fully agree, and we're working on that. There's also the question of the technology, and I think part of the reason, the thinking behind having it in real life events, is that can be a kind of access point for people where they're not interfacing with the technology, they're actually meeting people in real life and having conversations, and it kind of grounds the project in the real world as well as in the digital. But certainly the interface between the two, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there for improvements to be made 100%. In terms of the question about like what projects could come out of the DAO, I think that's a very open question right now. But if I was to think about it in terms of a regenerative kind of network state type solution, I'd come back to this idea of the regenerative property. What's a regenerative property like? Maybe it's got a rainwater harvesting system, it's got a solar system, it's got a food forest, it's got kind of it's well insulated, it's the energy kind of, it's either producing more energy than the inhabitants need, or it's kind of almost there. Perhaps even putting some energy back into the grid through solar. That's like in the physical world where things could go in terms of physical building. Then there's an additional layer, which is where the crypto primitives come in, around things like decentralized physical infrastructure networks, DPINs, where there can be kind of networks set up which will incentivize particular regenerative kind of behaviors, whether it's solar or basically anything. There's various experiments that have been tried. Very often these experiments have been more around like gamification and kind of there's one, for example, project called Step In that tried to incentivize people to run. And like, I can imagine community members might want to experiment with ways of incentivizing kind of more regenerative actions and rewarding people for those actions. Just very briefly, I'd also add there's scope for experimentation in the area of like community currencies, mutual credit networks, and other kind of primitives around like what is value, how do we transact value, and how do we represent real world value in relation to the ecosystems that underpin our economy. There's a lot of opportunity there for experimentation and deep dives into the more kind of tokenomic space. But what we don't want to do is invite a lot of people in to start doing all that work before we've built a solid foundation of community, of highly aligned community members that can contain that work, because we want to build a sustainable community that can kind of develop solutions that are going to last the test of time, not just like, and yet there may be experiments that fail, but that we'll know that they were built within a community of highly aligned people that were mission driven, not just trying to like pump and dump a token, you know what I mean? So that's why we're emphasizing the community piece so strongly in this early phase.
Awesome. Thanks for the answers. That gives me some better insights as to what y'all are up to.
No worries. Angela,
Yeah, Chris,
sorry, go ahead,
just
John.
both second that and sort of applaud the way you guys and the DAO has gone about focusing on community first, before technology, before tokens, before there's even really been a detailed discussion of what a token might look like, what it might do. And you know, there are a lot of communities that are, you know, they focus on community, but it's all around the expectation of a token and you know, price appreciation, things like that. And I haven't seen any of that kind of, you know, discussion here. So really like the way things are progressing and the fantastic content. Like I think I've been to almost all of the virtual events and looking forward to the New York City event coming up. But I really learned a lot. So that's a plus. I've spent, you know, many hours because it's interesting and valuable. So I think that's what we're trying to do.
Thanks, John. Angela, did you have your hand up before?
Yeah, I you know, again, thank you so much for hosting this space and just really looking forward to working together more. What if I was kind of new, you know, it's funny to see how people come into these different DAO missions. They may come in from like the technology side or like the real estate, you know, everyone has a different angle and we see the same at Build. As we are working with this event and kind of you know, figuring out the right themes, I find myself asking, because I've always thought about like you know, I find myself very new to the space of you know, regenerative concepts, but I have a burning desire to go have like a little off-grid house and like grow my own crops, which I guess kind of like fits in there. I just never had the term for it. So like, what if I was coming in and I wanted just kind of like an onboarding, like, you know, what's like the Bible or like the sovereign individual equivalent for regenerative concepts and thinking and just kind of like, you know, worldview, I guess, if there is one.
That's a great question. So you mentioned the sovereign individual, right? That book. I know that Mark is Mark Sadi. He's like a huge fan of that book. So I don't think you can go far wrong with that. But in terms of like the more regenerative land design component, there's many different tools we can use. Some of our content initially has been focused on permaculture, and there's a lot of different kind of resources in the permaculture space. For example, there's Bill Mollison is like the kind of founder of permaculture in a way, or one of, and he's got a book called Permaculture 1. And in chapter 14 of Permaculture 1, he talks about building a kind of permaculture nation. And that's all about kind of taking these ideas around, I mean, being off grid is sort of a simplified version of it in a way, and that kind of meme has a lot of power. This idea of like self-sufficiency of water, of energy, of food, like that has a lot of it's attractive to many people. But there's also like this kind of interdependence aspect, which is important too. And I think when we talk about if we're thinking about permaculture nation or regenerative network states, the connection between the different communities is really crucial here as well. And I think you might find that interesting in that Permaculture 1 book. We've also, maybe Ben, you could speak to this. We've got that regen resources section of the community portal, right, where community members have been adding in videos and content. I think is the book section filled out yet, Ben, or are we still, have we got to the books yet? Are we still on the videos? Where are we at with that?
Yeah, so pretty soon here we're going to be launching a type form that opens it up to even a more broader audience to start submitting different resources, and then we'll be processing those and editing and entering them into this regenerative resources library that exists on the community portal. And the idea is to, have all these varied resources, well-established individuals, and maybe even some that maybe aren't as established, but to make it easy for somebody to go into there and kind of filter through what it is that they want to learn about and read about or watch about, right? Later we've also talked about within that group that's working on this is the ability to kind of set up these learning journeys for others, kind of leaving breadcrumbs along the way from different resource to different resource that's within that library to kind of allow other people to follow in the same path. Whether it's a do-it-yourself humiculture bed or it's, whatever it might be, right? So that's kind of what that is there for. That's the purpose of that. And yeah, we to answer your question, Chris. But we definitely need more inputs so we can continue to build that out.
Sounds good. Cheers, Ben. Cool. Does that answer your question, Angela, or was there a...
you mentioned Permaculture 1 and a specific chapter, so it must be a high signal book. So I was just looking it up on Amazon now. Looks like it's only textbook, but yeah, just those kind of orientation points are super helpful. And I can see how these meetups, I'd like to learn more on how those meetups form, in case there's any other folks in the DAO in Texas, specifically Houston. I'd love to learn how those emerge, I guess.
Yeah, sounds great. There's Ash, who I think is part of ATX DAO.
Oh, cool.
He's down in Texas, and I know he's interested in hosting an event down there. He's got a piece of land down there that he's turning into like a kind of ranch type thing down there. And yeah, so maybe I can connect you two and see what's possible down there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Brent, who's co-organizing the EthCC event with us, is also an ATX DAO. So good to know those connections. That's great. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, Will Masters is also down in Texas, but I think he's in the Amarillo area.
Nice. Cool.
Nice. Yeah, what project is he from again? It's water management, right? But with a crypto flavor. The Basin DAO or something. Will Masters.
I know Will. I know Basin DAO code.
Yeah, Basin, that's Timo. And then Will Masters is with Ogallala Life. They're working on the Wildcat Bluff project, and they're also doing a project on a more private land as well. But the Wildcat Bluff is their newest addition to their work.
Cool. Awesome. So there's a little Texas cohort here.
Yeah. Yeah, John's saying that I'll round out our events, having one in Texas as well. Cool. Has anyone else got any thoughts, questions, areas they want to discuss? We've got about another 10 minutes. Happy to dive into any areas you want to explore together.
Tim, looks like you got your hand raised there.
Oh, hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm new to this space too. I was doing some research on verge permaculture, which is in Canada, and that led me to Fifth World, and that led me to you guys. And I find it all really fascinating. Do you have many members in Eastern Canada, around Toronto?
Yeah, I think that's like one of our biggest cohorts is over in that area.
Great.
And there are plans to host an event there soon. I think it's going to be a barbecue in the cookout in the park, I think is what's being discussed. But yeah, welcome. It's great that you made it. Glad that you could be here. Do you have any questions or anything that you'd like clarified?
Well, like I say, this is all new. I've been aware of the potential of DAOs and what they can do. I'm pleased that I've dropped in on one that isn't about creating tokens and making money, but actually is built on values and intelligent thinking, and obviously a background with a lot of people with a lot of integrity and intent. So I'm really impressed.
Thanks for that feedback. I'm glad that's coming across, that because that really is the goal here, that we want to build a highly aligned community of people that are values aligned, that are interested in regeneration. And I would say, like, in the longer run, we're not averse to having tokens and experimenting with primitives in the crypto tokenomics space and the crypto world. But we want to do that in a way that is kind of values aligned and achieves the objectives and the mission of the DAO.
Yeah, and just as a side note, my sister is involved in a large funding organization in Canada, and a lot of alternative finance is being created where capitalism is being rethought, and they're looking at capital in a new way. And there's a lot of practitioners, a lot of case studies, and a lot of very real examples of where finance has been shifted around to have some sort of benefit to the community or to the projects, as opposed to just be a way to extract income or capital gains or whatever. So it's kind of fascinating. This kind of fits into a kind of a bigger picture I've got from her. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think you mentioned that you were kind of new to the DAO space. There's a project called Gitcoin, which is all about grants distribution. It's also a DAO that's been around for a few years now, and they're very interested in this aspect of capital allocation, how to kind of get capital where it needs to be and develop kind of benefits for communities in the process. Where I don't think this has even been announced yet, right, Ben? But we're planning on having planning a Twitter Spaces with Kevin from Gitcoin in July. That hasn't been announced, so that's like above alpha for the community call here. But yeah, that's happening sometime in July. and we'll be talking a bit about this very point that you raise here, about capital allocation, and then also thinking about the meta crisis and ways of building out of that. Like, how can we build better, more regenerative systems? And obviously capital allocation is really a crucial part of achieving that goal.
And yeah, what's interesting too is this idea that I just mentioned, it's really picking up steam. So I think people tend to get kind of cynical when you talk about capital and finance and the financial world and all the self-interest. But this event we put on a couple of months ago, it was jam-packed. People were really enthusiastic. There's a lot of people, I'm talking about people who are in control of capital, or they're VCs, or they're institutional, or they're government, a lot of enthusiasm for this approach. So it's an exciting time.
Sounds great. I'm so pleased that you made it along and that you found the DAO. Are you already in Discord? Have you made it into the Discord community so far? Or-
No, what I'll do is, that's my next step. I'll get in there and get a bit more involved.
Sounds great. Cool. So
Let me know if you
we're-
need a link to that or anything. Happy to help you with that.
Yeah, a link would be
Sorry, there's
great.
probably a bit of a delay on my audio.
A link would be great.
Cool. So we've got another couple of minutes left. I don't know if there's any questions or final points anyone wants to raise before we wrap up. Suppose I'm just thinking.
I have
Sorry, go ahead.
something kind of exciting. So a couple weeks ago, so now it's been over years, I had some money that I invested in different crypto projects with Gemini. And their earn program got wrapped up in the whole FTX fiasco, like, a year and a half ago. And so it was only playing money for me, so it wasn't like life savings. I was fine, but it was, nevertheless, I had, a little bit of money locked up in their bankruptcy proceedings. But I just got it back like 2 weeks ago. So it was kind of nice. It actually was like a year and a half ago. It's like, okay, I'm like so done with anything that has anything to do with crypto. And of course, there are plenty of lessons I can learn from that, but it was just, it was nice. It was nice to get it back, and I'm in, to get those assets back is a win.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think like there is a perception of the risk and the kind of scamminess around crypto in some ways, and I think there's been a lot of very high profile scams. We can't ignore them, they're part of the space. But there are still within the industry a core group of people that are and developers and community members and other kind of builders, as I would describe them, that are in the space trying to use this technology to have a meaningful, positive impact on the world and develop real world products and use cases. And likewise, there's a whole bunch of people out there on the ground, like land stewards, people building regenerative properties, and they're out there like doing positive work. And VDAO is really is a meeting point for these communities to come together and try and kind of enhance that great work that's been done in the physical world by putting these crypto primitives and kind of combine them in some way to enhance the positive benefits and kind of spread that word about regenerative living and land regeneration. So really excited that we've got so many kind of new people that are new to crypto, that are new to DAOs, because that's what's going to help us kind of build this community and kind of invite more people in to realize our mission. And yeah, John's saying he's glad you got your funds back. 100%.
Me too.
Yeah. Ben, I would just recommend that you go check out our recent Twitter space that we had with Griff Green. We actually talk about the use cases in crypto a little bit and in some of those instances and how it's kind of starting to change and the landscape's changing. So it's a good episode. I highly recommend it.
Cool. I'll check that out.
Cool. Well, we're at time, but I'd just like to thank everyone for coming along. Thanks, Angelo, as well, for coming and sharing a bit about Build. We're really excited for this event in Brussels. I think it's going to be a huge success and one of many more real world regenerative network state focused events coming up throughout the coming months and years. So yeah,
100%. Always day one.
exciting. Great to see you all, and yeah, catch up soon. Join the Discord if you're not already there, and yeah, let's continue the conversation.
Good to see everybody. Thanks,
Nice
guys.
to meet you all.
Cheers,
Cheers, man.
guys. See ya.